You know, all those little things we do every day, how we unwind after work, how much sleep we actually get, they have a huge impact on our mental well-being. But the connection between them is way more complicated than you might think. Today, we're going to dive into some brand new, fascinating research that really unpacks this delicate dance between alcohol, our sleep, and our brains.
So, picture this. It's the end of a long, stressful day, and you reach for a glass of wine or maybe a beer just to take the edge off. So many of us do it. But have you ever really stopped to ask, is this actually helping me, or could it be hurting me in the long run? It seems like a simple question, right? Well, the answer is anything but. All right, so let's get into it. A major study that just came out this year is really shaking up what we thought we knew. Researchers took a close look at this whole interplay between our drinking habits, how long we sleep, and our risk for depressive symptoms. And trust me, what they found might just make you rethink your entire evening routine. Now, this wasn't just some small, random survey. The research is built on a massive pile of data from the Korean National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. And when I say massive, I mean it. We're talking about information from over 21,000 adults. That's a ton of people, which means the results we're about to see are pretty darn reliable. Okay, so let's get to the first big surprise from this study. This is where things get, well, a little weird, and it kind of flips what you'd expect on its head. It turns out the healthiest option isn't as clear-cut as just saying no to alcohol completely. Yeah, you heard that right. The data actually showed that folks who don't drink at all had a higher chance of having depressive symptoms compared to people who drink in moderation. I know, it sounds crazy, right? But this really goes against that common wisdom that says zero alcohol is always the best way to go for your mental health. And check this out. The numbers are pretty clear. For men who drank moderately, we're talking maybe 1 to 4 times a month, the odds of depression were 36% lower. For women, 27% lower. Now, the researchers think this might be because of the social side of drinking, which can help fight off social isolation. And we know that's a huge trigger for depression. But, and this is a huge but, before you go thinking a little alcohol is a magic bullet, there is a major catch. This so-called protective effect is incredibly fragile. The second drinking habits go from moderate to heavy, the benefits don't just vanish, they actually flip completely, and things can get risky fast. And the risk is serious, especially for women. The study found that women who binge drink, and that's usually defined as having 4 or more drinks in one go, faced a 63% higher chance of developing depressive symptoms. That's not a small number. It just shows how quickly any potential benefit gets wiped out. And for men, there was a different red flag. If they started drinking before they were 19, their risk of depression later in life jumped by 29%. So what this tells us is that it's not just about how much you drink, but also when you started drinking in the first place. Okay, so now let's pivot a little bit, because it turns out alcohol is only part of the story. The study uncovered another factor that honestly might be the real main character in this story when it comes to our mental health: sleep. For me, this was one of the biggest takeaways from the entire study. The data is pretty clear. When it comes to your risk for depression, the number of hours you sleep every night could actually matter more than how much you drink. Now look at this, because the gender difference here is absolutely wild. If men got less than 6 hours of sleep, their odds of depression went up by 48%. Okay, that's a lot. But for women, that same lack of sleep more than doubled their odds. We're talking a 113% spike. That is a massive, massive difference, and it really hammers home how vital sleep is for women's mental health. Okay, so why are we talking about all this? And why is it so incredibly important for anyone in a high-pressure job, especially in a field like academia? Well, these findings are almost tailor-made for people in those environments, from grad students all the way up to professors. Think about it. The academic world can be a perfect storm for these kinds of problems. You've got the insane pressure to publish, constant grant deadlines, juggling teaching with research and a million other things, not to mention a culture that sometimes glorifies pulling all-nighters and then blowing off steam with drinks. It creates this vicious cycle where good sleep and moderation are often the first things to get thrown out the window. All right, so we've seen all the data, the risks, the surprising truths, but what do we do with it? Well, the great thing about this research is that it doesn't just point out problems, it actually gives us a roadmap for solutions. So let's turn these insights into a practical playbook you can actually use. Here it is, your 5-step playbook. Step 1, and this is the big one, make sleep your #1 priority. Really aim for that 7 to 9 hour window. Second, let's redefine moderation. Think 1 to 4 drinking occasions a month, not a week. Third, just be mindful. Maybe use an app to track your habits and see for yourself how they're affecting your mood. Fourth, build your social circle outside of happy hour. Find other ways to connect with people. And finally, number 5, never forget that asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Use the resources available to you.
So at the end of the day, it really just boils down to this one simple but really important question you got to ask yourself. When you honestly look at your habits, how you sleep, how you unwind, are they building you up? Or are they slowly, maybe without you even realizing it, breaking you down? You know, in a field as demanding as academia, taking care of your mental well-being isn't a luxury. It's pretty much the foundation for your success. Staying resilient means staying informed, not just about your health, but about what's happening in your field. So if you want to keep up with all the latest research, publications, and career news, a really fantastic resource is academicjobs.com. Thanks for listening.